On the eve of the Revolutionary War, Captain William Delaplace of the British 26th Regiment of Foot commanded the outpost of Fort Ticonderoga. His command comprised a guard of roughly 29 soldiers, drawn from 9 of the 10 companies of the regiment. The 26th Regiment had arrived in America from Ireland in 1767 and had been stationed in New Jersey and New York City until 1771, when they were nearly dispatched to the new British colony of East Florida. But the regiment was reassigned in 1772, and instead of being sent south, were sent north to Canada. With their headquarters in Montreal, the regiment provided detachments to surrounding posts along the Richelieu and Champlain valleys, including Ticonderoga and Crown Point. Before embarking from Ireland in 1767, the 26th Regiment had been completely rearmed, carrying to America the final refinement of the long Land Pattern Musket developed much earlier. By the second quarter of the 18th century, the British Ordnance Department began to consolidate manufacture of weapons using a system of private contractors answerable to strict standards reviewed and accepted by ordnance personnel. The primary arms manufactured under this ordnance system were the land pattern weapons carried by infantrymen like those of the 26th Regiment. What became known as the long land pattern musket developed over a period of decades from the 1730s, generally sharing consistent features like those seen on this example from Fort Ticonderoga's collection, centered around a 46-inch long barrel of musket bore, or 76 caliber. Salient features of the long land pattern arms were a long stepped butt plate and a distinctively rounded side plate. The right side of the walnut stock bears the stamp of the storekeeper at the Tower of London, where completed weapons were stored for the English establishment. A similar system was used by the Irish Board of Ordnance, where the 26th received its arms from in 1767. This example, a pattern introduced in 1742, was originally designed for a wooden rammer, which was superseded by steel rammers by the late 1740s. The arms carried by the 26th Regiment in America represented the final advancement of the long land pattern musket introduced in 1756, bearing a straightened lock plate, a longer forepipe, brass nose cap, and a steel rammer as standard features. Proficiency with their new arms was expected for the 26th Regiment, and from their landing in New York, they were subject to orders first issued on June 22, 1765, that every soldier be taught to fire ball in all directions till he is a good marksman. Marks, or targets, were set up for this purpose, and soldiers trained to fire as individuals and by platoons. Beyond marksmanship, tactical discipline was drilled into the soldiers even during peacetime. Captain Delaplace's guard at Ticonderoga was only one small part of a vast British military apparatus strung out across their empire, from the British Isles to the West Indies and into the heart of North America. The men and women of the 26th Regiment worked to maintain the fortifications and artillery at Ticonderoga, survive unhealthy conditions and an often harsh climate, all while ensuring their small arms were serviceable in the face of growing unrest across the American colonies. In 1774, war clouds threatened, but for the time being, these soldiers monitored an empire shared by Britons and Americans, at a site that was already legendary in the Anglo-American mind, and which was poised to become even more famous across the Atlantic.